session this late before. Like actually, like
after 1 a.m.
after 1 a.m.
We may have, but it's it doesn't happen very often, and only probably during these big marquee like moments. But yeah, and I knew I was torn between leveling up you guys for this reason, because I knew that would kind of eat into the time, and I was like, I need as much time as I can. I know I'm not gonna get started till probably 10, but ultimately just kind of pulled the trigger and like, well, hopefully they can just roll with it, because it's just gonna be the finale. Just kind of do that, and this kind of has a two-parter in a way.
Yep.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Frostside Chat, our weekly live stream post-session discussion. We talk about what just happened during D&D. I'm also just completely gassed. This is the chat for session 89, so if you've not watched that session yet, please go do that, because there will be spoilers. I'm your DM, Eric, and joining me we have Val Robbins, player Chris.
Hello.
Edmonds, player Raymond. And yeah, this was a big change from the book. The final boss of Ithrin is always meant to be Iriel Arthas. However, in the book, he is a demi-lich, and it is a very tiny little room. You still like teleport there via the starry gate and all that, but you just enter this. It's actually on that same spire map. You just kind of go over into the like next level, and it's just this tiny little room with like a couple Nothics, and then he's a demi-lich, and that's the whole thing. Now, I mentioned before, but the spire is designed for like level 9 PCs, so I clearly wanted to scale it up there. Also, I was like, I didn't want to do the demi-lich things. Like, we fought like a lich at the end of Tomb of Annihilation, technically.
Oh, right, yeah.
Demi-lich is a little bit different, but still pretty close. And I just liked the idea of like, well, we got all these cool brain in a jar things. Why don't we make... And that was like how a lot of the wizards, they either turned into Nothics or they became these immortal brains. Why not make Iriel Arthas like the biggest brain of all?
It fit with the rest of the thing.
It does.
Like the lore of what happened to the city is like, okay, well, when they crashed, they had to, in order to survive, they turned themselves into these immortal brains. Like, okay, that makes sense. And then too much time passed, and they all went crazy. So sure, yeah.
I was going with that for sure. And so I used the Elder Brain stat block, which is a stat block from I don't know which D&D book, I don't know, but it's like a Mind Flayer creature. And then I changed some stuff around, because I had very obviously realized that, being able to just stun people left and right constantly, where they always have to remake the save, is just not great game design. I think we even talked about this during a previous... Yeah. So I did 2 big changes to its mind, because its Mind Blast is the big thing it can do.
Yeah.
And it like attacks like everybody in range of, so it's pretty bad. So one thing I changed was, instead of stunning if you fail, instead you roll a d4, and only one of the 4 is the stun.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I borrowed all the rest of them from existing psychic damage attacks and spells or crowd control things. So they all had some kind of nasty debuff, but at least they were more interesting than being stunned. So you had to first fail the save, and then you had a 25% chance of actually being stunned. The other thing I changed is that it only lasts 1 turn, and that was a big one. Instead of it having be, hey, you have this affecting you until you make the save every time.
I like that, though. I think that's just a better choice. It's like, you still get the consequences, but it's not like so swingy. It's not like, he did this 1 turn, so now the whole fight's fucking over. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it feels...
So I like that.
Yeah, it just felt too much. So I made those 2 changes. And then to kind of rebalance, it normally has a recharge of 5 to 6, and I put its recharge at 4 to 6. Didn't end up mattering. I never rolled a 4 anyway.
Yeah.
Instead, I rolled, I think, a 6 and then a 5 the first 2. So I did Mind Blast like the first 3 turns at least.
Good, yeah.
And then I think I finally started missing like 1 round. But it only has the 1 action, though, and it was just Mind Blast. Now, another interesting thing I did is legendary actions. I had its tentacle reduced to 1 action instead of 2, so it could do multiple tentacles a turn. And then I also gave it Dissonant Whispers, because like I want to give it some kind of psychic spell-like effect it can do.
Yeah.
But it's already doing a lot of the crowd control debuff stuff with the Mind Blast. But Dissonant Whispers is a fun way to force movement and all that kind of stuff. So I gave it a little bit extra legendary actions that it can do.
Yeah, yeah.
And then for my sanity,
I like that you put them on the map, on the initiative tracker too. Like that was a good way of like tracking it, I think.
That was for me, if more than anything, because
I know, because I've run like legendary actions before, where it's like when do I use this? Do I forget? I constantly forget, So yeah, it's good to like see that it's coming.
Right.
He's gonna do a thing.
And I like that about layer actions, the way they always happen on Initiative 20, and it's very easy to be like, all right, what am I doing with this layer action? I was like, well, why don't I just fucking do that with legendary actions? And that way I can keep them organized and say, okay, I'm just going to separate them out and say 15, 10, 5. It does one of its legendary actions instead of me having to remember. So that might have made the battle a little more difficult, because normally I would be able to play around with legendary action, be like, oh, I'll only use like, 1 or 2 this time because the player's really suffering. Instead it was like, oh shit, I'm going to do one every single time.
Like it's on the board.
It's on the board and we kept it going, yeah. But yeah, ultimately it helped me maximize its turn usage for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was very worried early on when we made it halfway through that fight. I don't think you guys ever damaged the brain.
Yeah.
You were just dealing with all of the minions.
Yep.
Which there were a lot of minions thrown at you.
Yeah, there were a lot of minions. Yeah.
And that was cool as a DM. I mean, obviously I'm worried about the time, but it was cool as a DM because that's the whole point of this creature. It's actually very physically weak, but it's got that powerful Mind Blast ability, and then it's got these tentacles that can pop up and grab people and keep it away from it. It's got all these minions it can use. The whole point, and the wall of force it can get. The whole point of it is just try to keep people away from it. So I was trying to use it, and the other way I usually balance fights is creatures are dumb, they're not really playing up to their strength, so I can kind of pull back. And this one was like, I really don't want to do that, because this guy is supposed to know you guys, know your tactics, it's read your thoughts the whole time you've been in the city. So and I try to play around with that a little bit by like, sensing out who's doing what and trying to specifically use.
Knowing us already as we go in,
Yeah. And yeah, at one point during, I think it was your brain aneurysm when you did unsettling words and everything, I technically had one legendary resistance left, but I was like,
I knew that.
I'm not pulling through there.
Honestly, when I cast the spell, I knew that, because I was like, I know that he could cancel this. He could just say like no, but I also know that it's 11 o'clock, and I know that he's not going to do it.
He's not going to do it.
Because I would just do it on my next turn anyway, and it would just make the fight last, another round maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I knew at that point Eric's not gonna extend this any longer.
It's funny how you guys barely did a lot of spells at it, so it was like we were so far into the game before and that's why I forgot it the first time. I was like, oh shit, yeah, you got legendary resistance, because it hasn't come up where you guys have been actually even targeting the brain for the longest time with spells. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I at least got to show off its intelligence save once as a +10.
Yes, yeah.
And because I was picturing like, oh shit, this is gonna be really like defensive for you, but you had your hands full dealing with.
I did,
just trying to
you
stay alive.
Fucking tentacling me twice, and then I got stunned by the blast once.
Yeah, you did.
So I definitely had my hands full.
Yeah, which that was part of the fight. It was like it was meant to just fuck you guys up to where you can't be in there, because I've done my job wrong if everybody's up there just hitting the brain left and right. So I really liked the way this tactically worked out with it. And it kind of felt like a fun climax too. It would have been bad if the boss had died and then you had a bunch of like minions rolling around and been like, all right, well, they just all start dying. But God, it worked out great with you all taking out all the minions and then rushing in like all at once to take down the boss in like a single half a round. Was
for me, the dome was the scary part, not knowing how it worked. Like, you heard me at the beginning, I wasted a turn doing this. Like, imagine, going up there and dinking at it, and that's like, oh, there goes my turn.
Right. Yeah, nothing happened.
Yeah, so it was a wall of force, which completely stops, nothing physical can pass through it. And essentially is any kind of like projectiles or weapon attacks and that kind of thing. But if you notice, I made sure to explain that it was a dome, so there was, because I didn't want to completely stymie people, and I was like, well, what about the tentacles? And I was like, oh, let's just do a dome around the water part and then have the underneath be targetable.
When I was curious about if it could be lifted, I was wondering if I could use Tensor's floating disc to lift it up.
That'd be interesting. I don't know how that would interact.
You know what's funny? It depends on if you tried it at like 9:30 versus, or like 10:30 versus 12:30. Because I might have acquiesced if things had gotten so late and like fucking Reese with the bug. There was no way I would normally ever let him do such a bullshit thing.
But I could, it's like it's in a situation where I could tell you knew that armor wasn't going to do much. It was going to do a couple of hits and then it was going to die after another round.
Yeah.
But it was just going to hang around. It was just going to be something we got to deal with. Another 20 minutes of playing. And
this is one of those things I think you learn as a DM too, where you try to take a seat back from the rules a little bit and you say, what's the fun thing to do here? And it's this dude tearing apart this brain and then discorporating his insects into the suit and then taking control as just a complete wild ass thing to do.
Yep.
and the player just
you know at this point that's just better than having a suit of armor that you have to beat up on for another half a round.
Right.
Yeah.
That thing was supposed to come in at round 2. I had it in my notes. I was like, oh shit, this thing's gonna come round 2. This thing's gonna be coming around 3. But because you guys didn't even attack the brain until like round 4,
so preoccupied.
Yeah, I did not. I literally had it in my notes like, oh shit, I'm gonna wait till the brain is like getting damaged before this other creature appears.
Which is probably a good idea because those Nothics hung around for a while.
Exactly, and the minion spawn is what I had as hidden information. That's what I was using to balance the fight. So initially I was thinking you guys would go, it would, I don't know, maybe go better in your favor, and then I would have to spawn that creature in the back line to start fucking you up. But you guys were actually getting fucked up quite a bit during this, like, because it's so hard to balance at this level, right? Like, it's so fucking hard.
Yeah, I mean, it is like, for all you know, we all could have rolled the stun on the Bind Blast.
Yeah, you all could have failed the saves and gone. You actually made saves. That's the crazy thing is you made saves left and right, and still I feel like took a lot of damage and took a long time to get through the fight.
And you can't plan for that. Like, right, you can set up the rules for that and kind of guess like, oh, what are the odds of this? But you don't know how it's going to roll out. It could be all 4s, it could be all 1s. It's
Yeah, I was very satisfied with the amount of damage you guys were taking. I think everybody except for Frey, which she did mention that. I was trying to like crowd control her versus do damage.
Right, yes.
I think all of you maybe got to 50% or so, maybe lower. I think you were taking some potions.
I definitely took a potion at one point, yeah.
Yeah, so nobody quite went down, but what's funny is just the amount of damage, like it wouldn't take much to go from 50% to down with a lot of these attacks. I was rolling pretty good on those Psychic Blasts. Yeah. You did keep Valen alive, which is very impressive. She's got just nothing left in the tank.
Slow switch, or can you not tell us?
Tell you what.
How close she got to dying?
She's at like 10% hit points left. She's very, very close. Because she's never leveled up. She doesn't level up with you guys.
Right,
so
she has not gotten stronger.
Yeah, she's whatever level you like found her at, basically. Which I guess technically it's your prerogative if you want to tell her to remain behind or if you want to take her to the Mythalar. I guess I'll still let you make that decision. Start next session. But
yeah, right.
She looks like she's pretty in bad shape.
Yeah.
This map is from Seafoot Games, who I subscribe to on Patreon. They have a number of really cool map artwork that I have used previously in this campaign. And I've been sitting on this one for what feels like at least a year and a half.
Oh, really?
Because they literally had a map.
This was going to be the end?
For a long time, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did have an idea of looking through the book thinking, I don't know when, but I'd have to go back through crafting streams and see when I first knew I was going to change the Demi-Lich into a Elder Brain specifically. I didn't know the exact, using Nothics as minions and that kind of thing. But I knew I was going to do that, and I knew I was going to use this map. I've had this map for a while. It's literally called Mind Flayer's Lair, and I just loved it. Just looked fucking perfect.
Yeah.
So the Iriolarthus being a boss fight in Ithrin is in the book, but I changed it to a brain. I modified the brain, and then had to balance it around level 15 for you guys with all the Nothics and stuff. I even had one of those big, powerful Nothics that are from Ithrin Expanded Towers of Magic. Was going to be another guy to come in and spawn in.
If things were going too well.
Yeah, but there's like no way.
Yeah.
By the time the Veneranda appeared, which is the cool Helmed Horror Brain in the Jar thing, in the book is you meet her in the spire and she's in the liquefaction chamber. Which is where they make and she's the one that was like making those, and she's actually kind of an NPC you talk to, and she's got information that I semi am not using and semi am giving you through Katavix. So I decided to eliminate her as an NPC, but then I was like, it's such a cool.
But you got the art, and
it's such a cool creature. It's like it literally combines two creatures together, and you're supposed to like roll initiative for both and use them both separately.
Okay, yeah.
So they're both
I did
together.
Notice that, like the armor had initiative roll and the head had initiative roll. Yeah.
Which I decided to go ahead and tell you because I didn't know how cheeky I should be about the fact that
they're separate things.
Yeah, it's like, oh wait, can I target the brain? Because the brain's doing things. Like, yeah, you can. I almost treat it like a video game where you can like see the cursor like pointing one or the other.
Like Fallout when you like target an enemy, like you target the head or the.
Or even like an older JRPG where you got like your selector on something and you realize, oh, I can select different things on the body parts.
Yep.
So I thought, okay, this is the time to use her as kind of a like, somewhere between a minion and the boss, basically, kind of a higher level soldier.
Right.
And initially she was just going to be on the map with the Nothics. And then it was pretty late during a crafting stream, maybe on Thursday, where somebody suggested, or maybe it was today. I don't remember it. To delay her spawn in, and I thought that was actually a great idea because then I can have her come in like the back line and start fucking up. And my notes it was she was going to come in around 2, but then very quickly I realized, oh shit, I need to delay this longer until at least I feel like you guys have got a handle on this fight before entering in more complications.
Yeah.
And yeah, shout out to Demnix for giving me an amazing piece of custom art, because normally the Elder Brain is just a...
If my hand had survived, I was thinking, like, I wonder if I could, like, have the hand... I don't know if it would, if there was anything physical with the artwork or not. But I was like, I wonder if my hand could just go up and try to grab that wand out of the brain's, like, tentacle and just, like, literally, like, disarm it.
I would have tried to play around with that, and that would have been fun. You know, at least maybe it loses a turn as it's, like, distracted or something.
Right. That's pretty good that it was so that was just art that you got from Demnix in terms of like the
created the custom art of the hat and the wand, which is amazing. Demnix also, I believe, provided the force field art for the Necropolis map, the Ithrin map.
Ah, nice. Okay.
Amazing. And I also, I think as a suggestion during a crafting stream, create actual tokens for the tentacles. I think that kind of was a nice visual add.
It helps. Yeah. Because like knowing that, I mean, you could say we can attack them, but seeing them on the map is like, okay, yeah, these are the things we can get rid of if we really want to.
Yeah, because I didn't want to make the tentacles a big frustrating thing. I wanted it to be a fun thing. And I did, I looked at the Roper for inspiration, because the Roper is one of the few creatures, first of all, just has cool abilities, but it has stats as its tendrils that you can attack and defeat them.
Right.
So I was like, that's because, you know, you think cinematically if you're grabbed by something, most people aren't just like wiggling out of it. You're like hacking at it with your weapon to like
you're trying
destroy
to,
it and get out of
yourself.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I definitely wanted to let people do that. So it was meant to be a pain in the ass thing to deal with.
I think that was well tuned too, because it really was only taking people a turn or a round to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like, so they could try to free themselves, but also Frey and Celeste, who kind of mostly dealt with them, could just hack at them. Or I guess it was mostly Celeste. Could just hack at them until they were gone.
Yeah.
And that was also effective.
I think, Celeste got grabbed 2 or 3 times. You got grabbed once. Valen got grabbed once.
Yeah.
I don't think I was able to actually grab Frey.
I don't think so, but I think she attacked one of them for some reason. I don't remember if she was freeing somebody else, but...
She did. She freed Valen with her magic missiles, I think.
That's what it was. Yeah. I was when she did 33 on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cool fight. There was a lot of really neat.
Okay. Eric, I will say this. Heather was saying a while back, and I think this is true, that historically our campaigns, as good as they are, haven't had great boss fights because they felt slightly anticlimactic compared to the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
I thought this was fantastic. This is a really good fight. Like, because it had like a bunch of different elements going on with the force field, and we could go under it. We knew that kind of, some. Yes. But we were also being distracted by the minions who were right in our faces. And it was like we were getting shut down in some. I was getting a little frustrated early on because like my concentration spells kept getting shut down. Yeah. But I kept able to like, okay, that didn't work. I gotta refocus. Now I'm gonna try this.
Yeah.
So that kept the tension up pretty well, I think.
Thank you.
I think it was well tuned in terms of being challenging, but also it didn't feel like we were getting shut down. It felt like we had all our options available to us, and we had to use all of our options because it was challenging.
That was the challenge on my part, was like, well, I don't want to just shut them down constantly. They are fighting a giant brain whose whole tactics is psychic damage, so that's why I had to play around with that. Like, what can I do? And I looked at other spells, and I was like, well, what are the spells I can do that aren't just stunning people, and as part of its Mind Blast repertoire?
Yeah.
And then already had the tentacles as bludgeoning damage, which felt fun because that's grabbing people.
Right,
and,
yeah.
The Nothics are very easy to run, so that was an easy minion. And yeah, I think it ended up working really well for once. I mean, it took a while. It was a solid probably 3 hours of fighting. Well, not 3 hours, because we did level up for a little bit.
That's true, yeah.
Maybe at least a 2.5 hour fight or something.
But I think that's also a little bit of a what do you call it? Indication of how well the fight went. Is that I don't feel like any of us got tired of the fight. As it went on. Like we were all kind of engaged, even though the fight went like an hour longer than a normal end time.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody felt like the energy level was maintaining pretty well throughout, which was nice.
Yes. And Demnix, I had to constantly in this fight. This is probably why it was pretty fun for me. Constantly, like I came up with a plan, and then it got shut down by something that happened. Somebody got grabbed by a tentacle, or my concentration spell got shut off, or so I had to go like, all right, new plan. Now I'm going to do this. So yes, at one point I was thinking about Misty Stepping someone into the dome on top of it. At one point I was going to grab somebody with the hand and run them up into the dome, like literally like Frey, like bring her in, or Celeste, like carry them in. I would like to be fisted up the shaft. That's right, exactly. Shift them up or fist them up the shaft.
Yes, fix them. Yes.
But yeah, there was kind of this. I feel like a lot of folks were kind of doing that too. It's like constant reorientation as the battlefield changed. Like, now this person's in a tentacle, and now this is going on.
You create a dynamic where nobody feels like they're just auto attacking. And the same thing. Instead, you're having to run around and deal with other threats and do with other abilities and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Each turn, there's a new set of complications that you're like, okay, well, I can't just like you said, auto attack. I got to think about like what's going on the battlefield right now.
Maybe there's something to be said about taking inspiration from like JRPGs versus D&D, where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna let you guys long rest after this dungeon, but before the final boss, because then I can go.
We pulled a lot of shit.
You pulled a lot of shit, but you have all those things available, which means I can then bring the balance up to that level.
Yeah.
And feel like, instead of you guys feeling like, oh, I'm out of this, I'm out of that, even though it's the big confrontation, you feel like, okay, I've got all my things, and then I can just, balance up to that level. Now, this one I felt okay with doing that because if you can tell, you're going right into the finale. So there's an interesting bit of like, oh shit, you got to long rest, but now you don't even get anything between.
I'm very curious how the finale is going to go. I mean, I don't know what you tell us, but yeah, because it felt very climactic. It felt like very much like a climactic boss fight.
Yeah, I will say
the leader of this whole city.
Right. I probably can't talk about it yet.
I
probably can't talk about it. We'll talk about it on Frostside Chat next time, but we'll see how it goes down.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But because you did that, because we were rested right before, we just leveled up, which is also a thing, that like helps us. It really did feel like, okay, now here's this really challenging fight with these like 3 or 4 different elements happening all at once, 4 shields and nothics and tentacles and armors, and use all the tools you've gathered thus far. Use these tools to defeat this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's... I think this... I don't know about precedent, but that may be the first time where the players were given a full long rest and a level up, and then immediately went into a boss fight, kind of at the end of a dungeon.
I am trying to remember, because
usually D&D works the opposite way, where it's all about attrition, and you're like, oh, we finally made it to the end of the boss. Maybe we'll get a short rest in, hopefully, but we'll have to use whatever we've got left.
Princes, I know we went through a whole cave fight before we got to the final fire elemental bit. Storm Kings, you guys went through a whole like cave area before you got to the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Tomb, I feel like we weren't fully leveled. I don't remember what I think we had like a weird like. Did we deal with the witches and then long rest, or was the witches like right before the main boss?
Yeah, Tomb actually. I think I
remember.
did level you guys up before the final session, so that may actually be another. Yeah, we may have actually done with the final one on Tomb now that I think about it. Maybe I'm just a fan of doing that now.
I like it. I don't. I think you and I have talked about this before, but I think both of us don't really like the attrition mechanic that it's sort of baked into a lot of D&Ds.
I've never. Yeah. I prefer
where you have to like very sparsely like economize your resource use.
Yep.
All the way from beginning to end.
Yeah, I vastly prefer like video games. I would vastly prefer like cooldown systems or something that lets me use all my shit. Now I still have to be tactically aware of maybe resources or things during the battle, but I don't have to feel bad about like going from one battle to the next in terms of having fewer things at my disposal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Demnix is asking, what's the name of your new level 8 spell?
Use
that spell?
I haven't used a spell yet. I thought about using it, but at the end, It's dominate person.
Oh yeah, right. Dominate monster.
Yeah. Dominate monster, right? Not person. And I thought about using it at the end on the armor because, like, okay, fuck you, Eric. Now I'm gonna take. You brought in reinforcements. I'm gonna have your reinforcements attack your brain.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But by the time it came to my turn, like Reese and Rochelle and Raymond had already laid into that armor pretty heavily, and I was like, it would be kind of like they've almost already handled it. So I'm gonna turn my attention back to the main brain, and not even worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also thought that if I had that armor out there in the beginning, you would have force caged it.
Prior to this level, I would have force caged it. I've been like when this fight started, I was looking at all the minions, going like, what's the toughest minion that I can dominate? Like I turn on the brain, like just get a new ally. And well, if that armor had been there, I would have dominated that armor.
Yeah,
like
that's a good point. And I didn't know you were gonna take that spell, so I didn't know that was the key. But yeah, that's interesting.
But if I didn't have that spell though, force cage, yeah, absolutely. I like my shutdown spell. I absolutely would have done against whatever the strongest threat was.
That's another reason I was gonna have it not spawn until like a round or two later.
Yeah,
I think that makes things interesting too to have creatures appear.
I agree.
After the fight,
it's almost like fight stages, and I always like that.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah,
and you can use it to rebalance a little bit because that's the few hidden information I have is like any GM layer creatures as well as hit points. So fun fact: this thing, an Elder Brain, has an average of 200 hit points. As a big boss, I gave it its maximum hit points of 300. And by the end, I only fudged it to where you guys killed it with about 27 hit points remaining.
Okay.
So literally probably would have killed it.
The next.
Yeah, you know what? It was Valin's turn next. I was like, I don't want. It's just let Frey
do it. Valin to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went through a lot of hit points of brain, which is why I was concerned. We went like 3 or 4 rounds without even touching the brain. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Gonna get nasty.
I think we were all kind of on the same page as like we gotta wait for these minions to get to this brain in the back, and we were really focused on those Nothics.
It was funny, like what like Frey was focused on the brain. I knew she would be, so I was like, all right, I got to try to shut down. Which that was the other tricky thing is, a lot of times to help balance the creatures against the party, I might play them more as like monstrous and not really thinking as much. This is the opposite, where this guy's like super in control. He knows you guys. He knows your strengths. And he's kind of commanding all these minions. So like, he's gonna try to shut down Frey and keep her away from him, and try to grab people with tentacles and do all this shit.
Yep.
And then once she got in, I was like, oh shit, now we're on a timer. She's just gonna fucking lay
now it's on. Yeah.
Now it's on.
Yep. Yeah, Demnix. I think Valin kill it with a 6 damage shell touch.
Hey, she got that 40 damage blight off. So
she did get that off. That was impressive.
Yeah. I just straight up forgot about the MVPC poll, which I think is the first time that's happened since we started this thing.
Yeah.
In like a year. I legitimately
honestly, I was a little worried because I thought that you hadn't forgot it and that you were still gonna have us keep going for another 20 minutes.
Oh,
so I was like,
no.
I was like, Eric, it's 11. It's 11 o'clock.
No, I wish if somebody had poked me about it, I would have totally been like, oh shit, I forgot, and I would have ran it. But it honestly worked out really great with everybody. Like, you know what? Fuck it. Everybody wins MVPC this round.
That's great. But I agree with you. When I read that earlier. What was everybody's favorite moment? I was like, for some reason, the fox getting killed was probably my favorite. I don't know why that was so funny, but the fox getting just obliterated was
where Edmund was literally like, I could save it, but I'd be happier with the flash of genius here.
Yep.
I mean, I've only got so many of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked out. I had to.
It worked out. We got a polar bear.
That same turn. Otherwise, I would have failed the dissonant whisper.
That's true.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, he needed that. He needed the flash of genius.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Still one of the best abilities I've seen too. Is that flash of genius? Holy crap!
Just the straight up +5. There's no roll. That you're gonna succeed.
I mean, it has limitations. You only have so many uses. You have to be within 30 feet. But yeah, the fact you can give somebody a +5 on a save is damn useful.
Definitely good to pump into intelligence.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah. Scales with the intelligence. All right, anything? It's so late. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's so late. But fair warning, next week, with the finale, it may be another long one.
Maybe another long, yep.
I'm on a timetable here, folks. Like, I got to get this shit wrapped up. My computer's got to get packed away in 3 weeks. Like,
oh, that's interesting. You have to
Yeah.
actually like pack all your like actual office stuff.
yeah, it's
up.
all got to go, which we're on. Which what's funny is, with Tomb, it was the baby. It's like, oh shit, we had a baby coming,
Yeah.
so we got to wrap up Tomb. And then she came fucking 3 weeks early. And then this one, I remember saying, like, 2 months ago, like, oh, well, at least we don't have anything major coming on that's gonna, stress me out for the end of the campaign.
And
Now
then
we're fucking moving, so.
Yep.
But we're on good track. The 12th will be the finale,
Yeah.
through hell or high water. And then we'll still do the 19th will be our big epilogue recap session where we have a big rap party. We'll do a bunch of giveaways. We'll share a bunch of stats and go through the whole campaign and talk about stuff. It'll also probably be a super long session because those are always just fun.
Yeah.
And then that'll be it. And I think we'll just take, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 weeks just straight up off, I think, from doing it. And then I need to get with maybe you, Chris, to see. And I'm not looking to start my next campaign probably till the end of summer. So we're looking at really filling in some time.
Yeah,
I'd like to run maybe some
stuff.
some one shots. I'd like to explore some different rule sets during this time period.
We should talk, yeah.
Yeah. And then I know Heather was talking about running like Tomb of Horrors. Like, there's a lot, so I want to like have a lot of room for some fun stuff we can do in between.
So you're looking at more like doing some smaller stuff.
With
before
more
jumping
quantity.
into the big thing.
Yeah. Nothing that's gonna be like
a 2-year long campaign.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Hopefully, I liked this campaign a lot. And obviously, we'll talk about
so
it
did I.
epilogue and
Great,
recap.
yeah.
But I think the next one I would do would probably not be the extended of what I did with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason, you're looking at 2 giant Alien fans. So
Right, yeah.
definitely see. And the thing is, if it's on Roll20, that's going to be the big thing. If it's on Roll20, it's got character sheets baked in, then that's going to make a world of difference to being able to jump in and run it with all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think that is going to do it for this Frostside chat. Thank you to Chris and Raymond for joining me. I am Eric, and we will see you next week for the finale.
Yes, indeed.